So one thing that we have at District 5, which is really amazing, is a DV advocate. Now we have Rachel. So she is, when I say that she's awesome, she's awesome. As it relates to, can you guys hear me back there? Can you hear me now? As it relates to getting information out there, assisting our community members, men and women who are victims of domestic violence. She's a great asset that we have at District 5, her along with Officer Jamie Samarla. So we'll have Rachel come up and just say a few words as it relates to what your role is, and then also the benefits that you provide.
Hi, my name is Rachel. I'm the DV advocate at District 5. I'm stationed there pretty permanently. I have my own office there. Part of what I do, I try to connect with victims after there's a DV incident. I try to do follow-up calls, and then if I can't get a hold of someone, I do home visits. Another big part of what I do, I help try to connect people with resources, whether it's counseling. Can't hear? Is that a little bit better? No? Is this better? Okay. So I'm permanently stationed at District 5. I have an office there with my DVLO, Domestic Violence Liaison Officer, Jamie Smrala. A big part of what I do, I try to connect with victims after an incident, whether that's by phone call or by doing a home visit. Sometimes I can meet people at a hospital. I also try to connect victims to different services, especially through Sojourner Truth House, whether it's shelter, counseling services. We can also help sometimes with financial needs as well, getting people relocated to a safe location. And then also providing that education and that support for people that are trying to leave their abusive relationships. Sometimes I help reconnect people with their family members too, just so that they have a safe place to go. That. Oh, and I also can provide restraining orders directly in office at District 5. I can do that either in person or over the phone. And that's something that we can provide in-house so that there's less wait time, there's less going back and forth as well. All right.
Thank you. So as Rachel just stated, restraining orders. So instead of victims having to go through several different hoops, they have to go down to the courthouse, find out information from the courthouses. There are certain times and certain days that they're able to be seen. Rachel mitigates all of that. So if you have a family member or a friend, or if you know someone who is a victim of domestic violence and they're interested in filing a restraining order against the offender, come to District 5 or contact us so that we can get you in contact with Rachel. You can do it over the phone. So the reason that I'm so thankful that she's here at District 5 with these resources is because we've had women who will say, I've been trying to get a restraining order, but I don't know the avenues to go through. We have the avenue right here at our district. So you can come to the district, give us a call. Rachel can come to do you go to houses as well? She can go to your house or meet you at a location that's safe. So I'm very thankful that we have her in house so that we can make sure that our victims get the resources that they need. Because I'm not sure if you all know or not, but our homicides by way of domestic violence, especially for women and women of color, has escalated over the past couple of years. So years ago, there will still be incidents of domestic violence, but the amount of women who are being killed, it is extremely high. So we want to make sure that we provide the resources, but we want to make sure that you know about the resources so that you know what's available for you and for your family, friends, neighbors, etc. Okay, so we're going to change gears and get into crime. Okay, so I'm sure each and every one of you have picked up one of the packets at the front, and it's going to talk about, I believe that second or third page is going to have a chart about our crime here. And normally, if you've been coming to these meetings, you know that I'm always not very, even though we have good numbers and good statistics, I'm not ever really happy, okay? Because I have the mindset of one person victimized is one person too many, okay? So I want to make sure that I point out that the 2023 statistics that we have for the month of March. So year to date, compared to last year, March 1st, we've had 4 homicides. And 4 homicides in 2022, 4 homicides in 2023. So we're at the same pace. And that's not a pace that I necessarily want us to be at. Now, I will say this. At the end of last year, at the end of 2022, we were actually down 16% in homicide. So we did a really good job. And like I said at the last meeting, my cops, we can't take credit for that by ourselves. We have to take credit for that with our community, because it was you all who were assisting us by providing us with information, giving us calls, requesting squads to be in your neighborhoods. You all assisted us in reducing homicides in District 5 by 16%. So my goal is to continue to reduce homicides and non-fatal shootings. Non-fatal shootings, we were down 3%. My goal was 5%. So we missed my goal by 2%, but we were still better than what we were before. Moving forward, we can still reduce these violent incidents. However, we still need your help, and I appreciate the help that you give us. So please keep it coming, okay? So our rates that have occurred in District 5, 2023 year-to-date numbers are 11. Last year, year-to-date, we were at 14. So that's a 20% decrease, okay? Last meeting, there was a question about the ages for sexual assaults, and I can tell you that the ages were a variety, so it was various. So it wasn't one particular group of women or men who were the target, okay? It's a variety of ages, okay? As it relates to sexual assault, and it could also be men too, because I don't want you to think that men cannot be victimized, because they can, all right? So we've had incidents where, and it's not just stranger sexual assaults. Sometimes these incidents occur with people who know one another. Sometimes these incidents occur with people who meet other people online for, a date or something of that nature, and it turns completely the opposite into someone is being victimized. So it's not just people who don't know the victim or the suspect. Sometimes they do know who the suspect is. Robberies. So last year we had 48 robberies. This year, year to date, we are at 47. So we're not too far off, okay? But what is one of the things that I always say that helps us prevent being robbed? And Sister Rose, you know. Oh, go ahead. Yes. Yes. When we know, I do the same thing on that cell phone, texting as I'm walking, leaving out of my house. We all do it. One thing that can not necessarily prevent us from being victimized, but it definitely can. But if we are victimized, one thing that can assist law enforcement with identifying who the suspect is what we call a physical description. We can't give a physical description if we're on our cell phones and we're not paying attention, okay? So when you're out and about walking, put that phone in your purse or in your pocket. Don't be texting. When you see people that you don't know, look at them in their face. How are you doing? Typically, those types of incidents, they're not gonna, try to do anything to you, because they're like, okay, I'm shocked. This person is looking at me, they're greeting me. I'm gonna let this person slide. They're gonna look for the person that's not paying attention, okay? That's typically what we call soft targets. The individuals who are not paying attention to their surroundings. Those are easy licks, so to speak, okay? Be a hard target. When you see somebody put that cell phone up, pay attention. How you doing, sir? Ma'am, how you doing today? That makes it easier for you, so you can say, yep, that person was wearing, the person had a bald head, light blue eyes, wearing a green shirt provides a physical description. Aggravated assaults. Right now we have 165 aggravated assaults for this year. Last year we had 246 aggravated assaults. So we are moving in the right direction. We're actually 33% down compared to last year this time. Okay? What is an aggravated assault? Anybody? Getting beat up? So, and it goes a little bit deeper than that, right? So this aggravated assault occurs when somebody's bone is broken, their tooth is knocked out, they require stitches or something like that. So we're doing much better than what we were doing last year at the same time. And generally, those types of incidents take place between people who know one another. Okay? So we know I can't speak for you all, but I can speak for myself. Family functions, get-togethers, uncles drinking too much, they get into a fight. They love each other, but they get into a fight, someone gets hurt, and we get called. Okay? So generally when we have those aggravated assaults or those physical assaults, generally those occur between people who know one another. Human trafficking. So last year we had 1, this time around. This year we have 0. And human trafficking, that can come in all shapes and forms. But one thing that I always say when we come to these meetings is if you see something that doesn't look right with a bunch of young girls in and out of a house, or even a bunch of young boys that look, something looks a little suspect or awry, please give us a call. Because the least that we can do is a welfare check. Knock on the door, put people who are in that house on notice. Someone is calling the police about a possible prostitution that's occurring within this house. And you can remain anonymous. You can tell the dispatcher, I do not want my name or my phone number to be published. I want to remain anonymous. Okay? When you call and you are anonymous, I appreciate it because it's better than you not calling at all. Burglaries. So right now we are at 45. Last year, this time we were at 44. Okay? So we are 2% up in our burglaries. All right? So what's the common way to prevent a burglary? Say that again? Yes, and how do we target harden? Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Keeping your doors locked, keeping your windows locked as well. Also, not allowing everybody to see what you have in your house. Okay? But then also lights around your house. So one thing that we offer at District 5 is CEPTEDS. It's crime prevention through environmental design. Okay? Studies have shown that when you have an area or a house or a business that has dim lighting or no lighting at all, that suspect or that potential suspect, that person that's looking for something easy to do, something to steal, more than likely they're going to try to get into that house versus a house that has a bunch of lights on the side of it. Why is that? They can't be seen. They don't want to be seen because they know if they break into or they try to break into that house that has the lights around it, it's a possibility somebody's going to see them. You're exactly right. So one thing I do want to point out, one of a few things that we've done at District 5, we have a variety of floodlights. How many do we have?
You're talking about around the district, or are you talking about?
For citizens.
Currently, we don't have any.
Okay. How many do we have in asset forfeiture that we request?
That I don't know. I know the cameras are one thing that I know.
Okay.
It's on the way, but the lights.
Okay. So one thing that I requested was floodlights. And I believe I requested 30 floodlights. Okay. So the floodlights, and they're solar operated. So you don't have to hook anything up to your electricity or anything like that. All you need is the sun in order to ensure that it has enough energy so that at nighttime, if there's any kind of movement, then it's going to go off. So I requested 30 floodlights through asset forfeiture. So it's just a matter of time on whether or not it gets approved or not. And once it is approved, we will be able to give those out for free to members in our community. Okay? Thefts. So right now we're at 154 thefts for the year. Last year we had 206, and that's a 25% decrease. That's a good thing. Your thefts, generally, a lot of your thefts happen from people who see opportunities, but also they can also occur from people who know one another as well. Okay, so just keeping that in mind as well. Being thoughtful about who you have in your house, about who you lay your purse down with. You go to a restaurant, you leave your purse at the table, and you go to the restroom. Just be mindful of those things, because those are all considered thefts when someone takes something from you, takes your property. Motor vehicle thefts. So right now, and this is significantly high in my opinion, we are at 114. Last year we had 208. Okay. I'm sorry? I wouldn't be surprised. There could be some that are not reported. Mhm. 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 And it could be, and I'm not doubting that it is, just due to the fact that people are so emboldened now. Okay, but one thing I will say about these vehicle thefts is that generally they occur when people leave their keys in the car. Okay, I know it's been cold. We all know it's been cold. We should be used to it by now because we've been living here for a long time. Okay, except for the people who, you guys are from a southern state or something like that. We're used to the temperature. So at this point in the time, we should know it's going to be cold. But, oh, go ahead, ma'am. Yes. Mhm. And you're absolutely right. And so that's the unfortunate part. So that's what assists in these numbers being so high, is that people will leave their vehicles running while it's cold, go in the house, come outside, and their car is gone. Okay. Another issue that occurs as well is individuals who it could be their children who are still in cars as well, still in their cars too, so taking the keys as well. Okay, so that's something to keep in mind. But then also, let's talk about the Kias and the Hyundais. So unless you got the recall, unless you actually went to the dealership and got the recall, depending on what year your vehicle was manufactured, it's still a possibility for your vehicle to be stolen by one of the Kia boys or the Kia girls. Okay. Do we have any clubs left? Okay. So that's a good thing. How many did we have? Do you know?
I think one point we had up to 30.
Okay. So that's a good thing. So at a couple of times last year, we were giving out clubs. So we would get grants from different organizations who would give us clubs so that we could give them out to people who own Kias and Hyundais. And so since we have none, that means that we're doing our job. Okay. So just keep in mind that please do not leave the keys in your car. And I can also, I also have an example of a female, a woman and a man. I believe they were husband and wife. She had her key fob in her car. He had her key fob in his car. And there was a string of car break-ins, okay, in a particular neighborhood. And both of their cars came up, they were stolen because they left the key fobs inside the car. The cars were not running, but they left the key fobs inside the car. And the suspects who were rumbling through some stuff, they stole the cars. Okay, so just make sure that you keep your cars inside your house, and if you are not inside your car, don't leave your keys running, or don't leave your car running with the keys in. So the good part is that we are down 45% in that area, but we can still do better. Arsons, right now we are at 3. We have 3 compared to last year when we had 7. So we are 57. We have a 57% decrease. So we're moving in the right direction. Non-fatal shootings. Last year we had 27. This year we've had 23. okay? That is, even though it's 15% below, but you think about how many, 23 people shot in District 5 alone, that's a lot of people shot, okay? And I know it's not, there's other districts that have more, but you just think about the times that we're living in. And one thing I will also say about and I know that it's not on this spreadsheet, but generally these individuals who are out here victimizing, they're getting these guns from somewhere. Generally, those guns are coming from people's cars. Someone will go to the club. You know what? I can't get into the club with my piece on me. Let me put my piece underneath my seat. Let me put my piece in the trunk. These young kids, they know that they circle around these clubs looking for, breaking opportunities to break into these cars so they can find somebody's gun. Yes, please.
DA's office, especially after a weekend, especially if you take your vehicle downtown, activity, you have your gun, that's what you'll see is actually doing. They're not even stealing anymore, they're just breaking in for the gun. I bet on a good Monday morning, when I go through my referrals, there's probably like at least 15 to 20 guns that are taken out of cars.
Yes. So thank you very much for sharing. So if you could tell your family members, friends, your neighbors, hey, just so you know, they're looking for guns. And that's one of the reasons that we have so many non-fatal shootings and homicides. It's just the amount of guns and weapons that are out here. Okay? So our carjackings are consistent with what they were at last year at 10. So we have 10 carjackings compared to 10 last year. So there has been no change in that statistic. Okay? So we do have some information from last week or last month's meeting. So yeah, can you share?
Hello, everybody. I'm Sergeant Howard. Some of you guys were not at the meeting last week, but it was just a couple questions that we were asked. And so as far as one was traffic deaths. So what I did find out is that they are not a part of our homicides. So those numbers I would have to get for you guys for the next meeting if you guys attend. So I did find that information out. A lot of people wanted to know about the 80-10 nuisance ordinances. We did print some out, so you guys should be able to grab those off the table in the back. And as far as the vacant houses, I know that we do vacant house checks. As far as, I know people were worried about the houses that were open and there were, homicides happening. There were people getting raped, people getting beat up, people squatting in them. So we do have vacant house checks, but we do need you guys to call us also when you notice that there is a board off the door, a window that's open. Just give us a call. Just say, hey, I see that I know that this house is vacant, and it's open. I don't know if anyone's inside, so we will come and check that out. So that's pretty much what I have.
I was just gonna say, I know last meeting, people wanted to know exactly how many are being charged by the district attorney's office. We keep our data differently than it does, so I was provided a 1,000-page document on all the charges between 2021 until today's date. So instead of printing you guys out an encyclopedia, I'm gonna go through and kind of make a spreadsheet like this and hopefully present that to you guys at the next meeting.
So I want to make sure that I talk about the things that we are doing in District 5, because that's important for you to know. Okay, so we're not just taking calls for service. We are also being proactive as well. Okay, proactivity consists of our traffic stops. Traffic stops, to me, as a captain, is extremely important. It was extremely important when I was a police officer. And the reason it's so important is because when you put those lights on, first of all, you conduct a traffic stop of a vehicle that is violating some type of a law. Okay, so right then and there, I'm already making a stop. I'm stopping somebody who is violating the law to some degree. Okay. Secondly, when I hit those lights, people in the neighborhood, they're paying attention. Okay, so those individuals who are out there selling dope, you know what, let me take my bag and let me go ahead because I don't want them to be sweating me. Okay? Not only that, but individuals who were considering or considering getting some kind of altercation with someone who was in that neighborhood. The police is here. You know what? Let me go ahead, leave this argument, leave this problem alone. I will, address the situation with such and such at another time. And hopefully that time never comes. Okay, so the reasons that we do these traffic stops, it's not just to conduct traffic stops. It's really to be a presence and to deter illegal activity and to stop it before it happens. So each month I give you information and numbers as to how many stops we do. So for the month of February, we conducted 157 traffic stops. Now keep in mind, we're not conducting traffic stops. We're not just pulling people over, okay, just to be pulling them over. So we are in what is called a Collins Agreement. So a few years ago, the Milwaukee Police Department was found to be in violation of stopping people of color, black and brown people, significantly more than they were stopping Caucasian people. Okay, and not only were they stopping people, there was no articulation as to why they were doing it. So now we have to ensure that whenever we stop someone, whenever we stop a vehicle or person who's on the street, we have to articulate reasonable suspicion why we're doing this. Okay, and so one thing, so it's not, so the number 157, it may seem like it's a lot, like, oh, they just out here just stop. Nope, we're not just stopping people. We're stopping people for the right reasons. We're stopping people to make a presence. Okay, and it's not just about issuing citations. Now, if you're driving reckless, if you're driving in the parking lane, you baseline and you swerve, and you deserve every citation possible. And you should be happy that I'm not a cop anymore, because I will write them. Okay, but some incidents don't necessarily deserve a citation. Some incidents deserve, you shouldn't have did that, or maybe slow down. I understand you may be in a rush, and they look at the license and see there's no other violations. You don't necessarily deserve a citation. Okay, but we handle things. Yes, sir. Say that a little bit louder. Now, I appreciate you asking me that question. Now, we'll say this. Sometimes those vehicles are stopped. You may not, unfortunately, you may not be present when the stop occurs. However, those people, even though they may receive a citation for not having their vehicle properly registered, not having a driver's license, etc., after those citations are received by those individuals and the officer leaves the scene, they continue to drive around like nothing happened. Okay, I'm not sure if you all seen something in the news maybe last year about a man who had about 30, 40 citations and finally went to court. So it's not just our level. We are one level of legislation or law enforcement or public service. There are other levels that also have to do their jobs too. Okay, because we can make the arrest, we can take somebody to jail for victimizing somebody, and in some cases, those individuals may not be charged, even though we believe that they should be charged. Okay, and sometimes, like last year in 2020, we had COVID where we had a lot of people who were out on the street who shouldn't have been. Okay, so we are just one leg, but there's multiple legs to make this to make it work, to make our city work, our city safe. You have another question? I appreciate that. Now, in the perfect world, that would be the case. Okay? Unfortunately, it's not the case because it's just not the case. Now, I will tell you this. So last year, we implemented, I believe it's 4 different ways in order to tow a car outside of the other ways. So the person didn't have any type of insurance. If the vehicle was improperly registered, meaning no plates, suspended plates, things of that nature, it could be towed. However, sometimes it would take the tow truck so long to get there, these officers are caught to a shooting that occurs. or, something else that, someone's life is in jeopardy. So there are so many different avenues, and I wish that we could do so much more, but we are doing a whole lot, but other entities also have to assist us a little bit more. And I will tell you that staffing plays a huge effect in that, okay? Since 2020, some people have found different avenues in order to receive their income, and not working necessarily through the public sector. So let's talk about field interviews, because that's the next thing that's significantly important. So a field interview occurs when an officer has IR. Someone have you?
Individualized, objective,
Mhm.
objective, reasonable suspicion.
Yes.
Individualized, objective, reasonable suspicion.
Say it 5 times fast.
Articulable.
Yes. So one of the reasons, like I said before, that we are in this covenant agreement is because under previous administrations, individuals of color were stopped significantly more than people of non-color, without any documentation, without anything being articulated. They were just, you on the corner? Okay, well, what you doing on the corner? All right, without being anything articulated. So now when we stop people, we have to ensure that we have IRs in our reports, okay? And so we've had, when we stop people, we call them field interviews. So for the month of February, we've conducted 35 field interviews, okay? So that's when we believe that somebody is about to commit a crime, is committing a crime, or has committed a crime. You got a question, sir? Oh, no. Okay, sorry, my bad. Okay. And so we have that shot spotter. You all know about the shot spotter, right? Okay. So that shot spotter software really assists us as it relates to stopping individuals with firearms who should not be having firearms. Individuals who have just either shot in the air or shot at somebody. We're able to get there expeditiously, like expeditious. We are able to get there quick because we have apps on our phones, so that those notifications pop up on our phones, location as to where this incident is taking place at, and then how many rounds have been fired. So generally, that's one of the biggest reasons for the numbers and the FI stops that we have. We also have them for other reasons as well. Okay, so with that said, I'm going to open things up for questions. Do we have that? The judge is here? Oh, okay. So we're going to open it up for questions, and then we'll have our lovely judge come and say some words. Anybody have any questions? Is that what we, illegal dumping? Okay, so I'm gonna,
There's a slide on it at the end.
okay, okay. Okay. All right. So I'm glad you brought that up. Thank you. So illegal dumping is an issue. Okay. Whether you live next to a vacant field or not, whether you live down the street from a vacant field. Some individuals think that they can just take whatever type of property that they have on their pickup trucks or whatever and just leave it in somebody's yard. And yes, that is an issue. I know that there is a location, I believe, off of 13th and Atkinson, and that 13th, 14th and Atkinson, where that has been a significant problem, where no matter how many times the city will come and clean it up, somebody will come back, dump stuff again. Sometimes these individuals have license plates, sometimes they don't. But if you see them, please make sure that you are reporting this to us. And then, so Steve, do we have the cameras? Are they the blink cameras? Not yet, okay. So that was another request through asset forfeiture. So, and just so that we understand what asset forfeiture is. So there are different funds, not necessarily funds for the Milwaukee Police Department, not necessarily any type of grant, and nothing that comes out of our budget, but different funds that our chief of staff is able to request from I believe from the Common Council. Okay, and I could be misstating that slightly, but there's different funds. So at several meetings that we have, when you guys say that we need something, can we get this or can we get that? I make sure to make note of it and request those things that you all asked for. And so one of the requests was to have cameras. So it would be very pricey for the Ring cameras. Okay, so we decided instead of the Ring cameras, these are I believe they're called Blink cameras that are significantly less. Now, once this gets approved, which we believe that these floodlights and these cameras will get approved, we will be. I believe I requested 30. Do you know? I believe it was 30.
I believe it was 30, yes.
Okay. So once it gets approved, which I believe that it will get approved, we will be distributing that to our community. Okay. You have a question, ma'am?
Really a question, but the 5,000 tickets that were given out, what happens to that money? Who does it go to? And it can be used for cameras and other things that.
So the 5,000 tickets you're talking about?
Yeah.
Okay. So very good question. It really depends on if those individuals pay those tickets. That's the real question, right? Are they paying? You know, but the money will go back to the city. It goes back to the city. So I'm not sure. I don't believe that it necessarily will come to our district or any district or anything like that, but it will go to the city and get funneled into the different parties that are, or the different intergovernmental agencies and entities within the city. Yes, sir. They do work. So the lights that you're talking about that are on the different light are different. The cameras that you're referring to that are on different lights in the city, they do work. They assist us a lot as it relates to. So, say for instance, there's a hit and run, and someone is significantly hurt from that accident, or some other major crime that occurs. They're able to capture that. And so, when you look on social media, or even if you or our social media, the Milwaukee Police Department social media, the main page, or even if you watch the news, you'll see a photograph, and it'll say Milwaukee Police are looking for this vehicle or this person. Generally, it's from that, but then also some of the Ring cameras, some of the other doorbell cameras that other people have as well. So yes.
Those cameras on the streets, they're not for speed, right?
Correct. They're not for speeding tickets. I know that Chicago had something like that before, as well as the red light cameras. However, I know that a lot of people were able to overturn those citations when they went to court. So that's something that I believe the agency at one point visited, but then they seen the ramifications behind it and decided not to go with it due to, I believe it had to do with accuracy. Okay.
It has to do with everybody getting arrested.
That too. Okay. All right. If we don't have anything additional, we'll open it up for the judge.
So good evening, everyone. Let's see, where can I put my mask for just a moment in this pocket? I want to thank your district for, I think my, one of the treatment court coordinators, I think, that I work with was reaching out to the district different stations in Milwaukee, seeing if I could have an opportunity to come and speak with you about a particular topic within our court system, our treatment courts in our criminal system. So thank you for the opportunity. So I just want to start with maybe just a basic kind of refresher on your courts. As City of Milwaukee residents, I'm a District 3 resident over on 29th and State. That's where I've been, April will be 21 years that I've called home. And so as City of Milwaukee residents, we have municipal court judges that live in the City of Milwaukee that are elected by the City of Milwaukee residents. You have your circuit court judges, also called the county circuit court judges. And these are the judges that handle all types of cases, whether they're criminal cases, they might be family law cases, including divorce, child custody, placement, child support, things like that. Your circuit court judges also do civil cases, like eviction cases or those bigger dollar amount lawsuits. You have a group of judges that are assigned out to the children's court facility out on Watertown Plank Road that issue or handle issues related to child safety or juveniles who have been accused of committing crimes. And those circuit court judges, that's how I serve, are elected by the entire county. A circuit court judge can live anywhere in the county. I've chosen to make Milwaukee my home. And then after that, you have your Court of Appeals judges and then your Supreme Court judges. And you've probably been kind of, if you watch any television or radio, you're being blasted right now, right? With those Supreme Court justice ads. So ultimately, you select your judges. And so I just wanted to give that little refresher to remind you that you have a voice there. I've been serving as a circuit court judge since August of 2012. I've had assignments because when we're elected as a circuit court judge, we're not elected to one of those specific assignments or subject matters that I've just listed. We're elected and then the chief judge decides where to place everyone. Our assignments usually last somewhere around 3 or 4 years. And so in my 10 years, I've had assignments. I started in the misdemeanor division. I moved to the felony division, including in my later years in the felony division, I handled the homicide, sexual assault, human trafficking cases, so that heavier caseload. Then I served 3 years in the family court division, then back to the felony division, and within that felony division, within our criminal division, we have one judicial assignment of your 47 judges in Milwaukee County. One is assigned to what we call our treatment court assignment. And so that's what I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about now. Our treatment courts are still criminal courts. Defendants, those accused of committing a crime, still have constitutional rights. They have their constitutional right to a trial. They have their constitutional right to remain silent. They have their constitutional right to be represented by an attorney. Victims, if there are cases that involve victims, like a retail theft or a car theft, those victims still have victims' rights under Wisconsin law. In the treatment court model, however, if a defendant has chosen to plead guilty, so if they've chosen not to have a trial, some cases are eligible for a treatment court model, not all cases. We have specific criteria for selecting them, and there are just some cases that are not appropriate, like a homicide or a sexual assault or human trafficking. But what we try to do in treatment court is use what we call evidence-based practices. What do we mean by evidence-based practices? Practices that have been researched and studied to show us what works and what doesn't work when we're trying to change behavior. Change behavior so that we're diverting or redirecting someone from criminal conduct to non-criminal, productive, law-abiding conduct. Research has shown us over the years that a judge's gut feeling about what works isn't always right. Actually, sometimes the research, when I read it and learn, I'm like, oh, that's like maybe not quite the exact opposite of what I thought, but it's different than what I thought. So in our treatment courts, we are going to use evidence-based practices to respond to behaviors of the individuals while they are in that treatment court program. The treatment court program is usually 12 to 18 months for an individual. It's intense. It's more intense, I think, than most of the probation or community supervision with the Department of Corrections. When we identify individuals who have a treatment need, specifically a substance use disorder that is contributing to their criminal conduct. So for example, criminal charges of possessing heroin, possessing fentanyl, possessing cocaine, someone who might not be distributing it or profiting from it, but they have an addiction. Retail thefts, burglaries, those types of property crimes are oftentimes, not always, but oftentimes driven by substance use disorder or addiction. We also look at mental health issues. There are sometimes significant, severe, persistent mental health issues that are contributing to crime. That if you can get someone stabilized, right, and get them healthy, they can make safer choices, both for themselves, healthier, safer choices, but for the community at large as well. And so once someone has gone through a referral process, that referral can come from the district attorney's office. We have a number of district attorneys that work specifically in identifying when those referrals are coming in and those charges are made, whether or not they might be appropriate for a treatment court assignment. They can come from the defendants and their attorneys. Sometimes they come from the victims. Right? Sometimes victims know each other. We were talking about how sometimes family or people know each other, or sometimes a victim, even if they don't know the defendant or the accused, may say, hey, I'm wondering, is this person suffering from substance use disorder or from mental health? So these referrals can come from all different places, but once we use, again, these evidence-based practices or tools to do assessments, to look at what is a person's level of risk. Risk is going to correspond to how much supervision do they need, how often do they need to see the judge. There are a number of participants, usually in our treatment courts, for their first at least couple, sometimes several months, where I'm seeing them in hearings every week or bi-weekly and checking in and getting reports about how they're doing, what they're doing well, or maybe where they're challenged. And then again, it's those who have chosen to plead guilty and enter the treatment court if they're accepted. They're not required to do that. They're not forced to do it, but it's if they choose to do that. And then usually when someone successfully completes treatment court and graduates from treatment court, on the front end, there was an agreement and a contract that the state negotiated with the defense. If there are victims of the crime, the state is conferring with those victims, and if victims strongly object, they're usually not then offered that treatment court option. But usually the benefit to the defendant, the person who chooses to plead guilty, is, for example, a charge might be dismissed. If the charge was possession of cocaine and they have no history of selling it or profiting it, they really possessed it because they were using it, but they graduate from treatment court and they go 18 months through residential treatment and then outpatient treatment and maybe day treatment, and by multiple times a week being tested and showing us ultimately they're establishing and maintaining sobriety. A case like that might be dismissed. There might be a scenario where maybe a burglary occurred. A burglary is a felony, and the state might negotiate up front with that person. If you don't complete drug treatment court and the conviction is entered and the judge has to decide a sentence, we're recommending prison. But if you successfully complete it, maybe it is amended to a misdemeanor conviction instead of a felony conviction, if that person really has shown their commitment and their change, so that hopefully then they don't have the barriers that come maybe with a felony conviction to things like employment or education. And then maybe the state's recommendation is something significantly less than prison. Sometimes even a disposition or a sentence recommendation of time they had already served in custody kind of after the initial arrest. So I just wanted to give you a couple of examples. I'm throwing out a lot. I hope not too much quickly at you. But because I know at the crime and safety meetings with MPD, numbers are a thing, I brought some numbers. I didn't commit them to memory. I'm not that good at it. But to give you just a little sense of some of the numbers, we have 3 different treatment court programs. We have a veterans treatment court program, an adult drug treatment court program, and then a still developing in the works, but we're making progress, mental health treatment court program. For our veterans, the specific thing that I think is important to share about veterans treatment court is that it recognizes specifically the service that veterans have given to our country, and that how oftentimes, maybe not for every single veteran, but for so many veterans, their service to country has taken a toll on them that makes them at higher risk for suicide, that makes them at higher risk for substance abuse and other issues, and recognizing that their service to country may have contributed to some of these underlying issues that are now contributing to criminal conduct, to recognize that. And then in our drug treatment court, we're focusing primarily right on that substance use disorder, but many times the participants in drug treatment court also have what we call co-occurring mental health issues. Our mental health court is looking specifically at individuals who have very severe and persistent mental health issues. I do not wish at all to or intend to minimize what generally depression can feel like for someone who's struggling with it. But that's not the type of mental health issue we're looking for mental health court. Mental health court, we're looking for more severe things like schizophrenia, schizoaffective disorder, bipolar disorder, things that might have hallucinations, voices, where really that medical stabilization with medication and treatment is so important to helping that individual be safe and healthy, but then again, at a larger picture, our community safe and healthy. So the numbers that I said I was going to share with you, and I got off on a tangent, our Veterans Treatment Court just celebrated its 10th anniversary in 2022. In that time, there have been 366 participants with a graduation rate of just about 79%. Right now, at any given time, we're hovering at about 25 active participants in Veterans Court. Our Adult Drug Treatment Court that has been in operation, implemented in 2009, so far has had 838 participants. And for the adult treatment court, we have a working relationship with UWM and a professor and researcher there who helps us keep statistics and researches and gives us an annual report and evaluation. And the most recent report I received for the participants who started in 2021, then when they graduate, they follow them for like 12 to 18 months or check on them afterwards to see have they committed any new offenses. And for the 2021 cohort, that we call that group, the recidivism rate where they charged with a new offense was 8.5%, which is actually very low when you compare it to like traditional court models. So I don't know if I have time for questions. I know that you have other things you want to present. I could either take a couple of questions, or if you need to move on with the presentation, I will stay and just stay at the back. And as you wish, or as the other presentation is done, I'm happy to spend my time and just meet you guys at the back if you have any questions for me. Why don't, if there's a question, I'll take a couple of questions before I turn the mic back. Yeah.
I just wanted to add, I'd say about 50% of my current calendar is in front of you. We have several people in District 5 who have substance abuse issues, mental health issues, whether it be, panicking, the constant panhandling outside or causing disturbance, multiple retail thefts and orders for drugs. And I just wanted to be clear that a lot of times the victims of crimes will say, well, it's a family member, I don't want them to go to jail, I know that they need help, but everything, we try everything, and they keep harming me on my family. No, I just really want to make sure that you guys know that there are other options in the criminal justice system that isn't necessarily automatic jail or prison for people who qualify for these amazing programs.
Thank you for that. And remember, like I said, right, the referrals, like how do cases get to the treatment court? Some of those referrals come, those charging decisions and when the state is looking at it, but some of them come from victims or, if like a veteran who has become justice involved, and you think that they could potentially benefit for something like this, you can always share that information, and that's part of my trying to get to all the districts and just share information. So thank you. Yes, Sister Rose, is it?
So we know when the drug court started, we had up to 80 people in it, and now I understand it's like half of that. And we're mostly black and now apparently mostly white. And we're trying to figure out what happened. We know that part of it is the restrictions of getting in. So we need to change some laws up in Madison, because some of the crimes don't fit that, and that's a problem because it's switched. We don't want it to be switched, so I don't know if you can help us out there.
So I would like to respond to a couple of things. I happen to have with me some numbers about current kind of composition or racial makeup. I don't have them with me today on the drug treatment court, but on our mental health court. Currently, the makeup. Oh, I'm sorry. No, I do have the adult drug treatment court. My mistake. So this was information that I requested and received on January 27th of 2023. And the racial makeup of the adult drug treatment court was 32% Black or African American, 43% white Caucasian, 21% Hispanic Latino, and 1% other. So that was the current participant makeup. So in the assignment I'm currently in addition to the mental health court, the veterans treatment court, and the adult drug treatment court, we also have another set of cases I didn't talk about tonight, which are called our early intervention deferred prosecution agreement. Those individuals who did not, when assessed, have high enough risk or need scores to need that more intense treatment court model. So I also have a couple of hundred cases that are on these other diversion tracks. Currently, I told you we have about 25 active participants in veteran court. The census goal for veterans court, as set by our judicial administration, is 40. We currently have, we're almost at 11 mental health court participants, and that might seem like a tiny number, 11 out of our entire Milwaukee County. I just ask that you consider and just remember, this is a really high needs population, and the research shows us that to do it well, not only to do it well to have good outcomes, but to do it well that we don't do harm and actually make our outcomes worse in terms of recidivism or other things. It just takes, I'll just say, it takes a lot in terms of the resources and the time. So we also have to be mindful, like, not to take on too many people that we can't appropriately serve. The census goal for mental health court by the end of the year has been at times set by the judicial administration or chief's office 25. We're currently in drug treatment court hovering around 45 participants active at any one time. The census goal is 80. But I'm going to be frank with you. I was in court until like 5:01 this afternoon, and then came here. And I say that just because we are working really, really hard on these cases. And quite frankly, I don't know. We currently have only one judge assigned out of 47 in the county. I don't really know how I could take on much more and do it well. We're kind of stretched at kind of, I think, close to our limit right now, even though we have these other census goals. If I had 40 veterans, 80 people in adult treatment court, and 25 in mental health, just the steps that the treatment court model uses, we wouldn't have time to do those things. This does not mean that we shouldn't press for it, because research shows really good outcomes, better outcomes in these particular types of cases that meet the criteria than traditional court or criminal court models. So I'm hoping that with time, with coming out to things like this, just to share with the community, we have some really strong advocates in the community. Micah is one of the groups, if you're familiar with them, that are really strong advocates and right now really have been helpful in advocating for resources for the mental health court. Their advocacy helped us get funds from the county to hire a mental health court coordinator in October of last year, which was really, really meaningful because it takes a lot to coordinate not only the court, but the case managers and the peer supports and everything that's involved. So I hope that as a community, we will value more and more what the research shows us works in a really special and unique way, so that we can advocate for more resources to be put towards these types of treatment models or court models, including additional, hopefully, judicial resources. Thank you. And let's take one more question, and then I'll pass it back to you, but then I'll stay at the back if people have other questions after. Yes, sir. And I think just on the last comments on the mic, before I pass it back, you know, I shared with you that I've been serving as a judge now. August was 10 years. I'm going on 10 and a half years, and of that, I have spent 7 and a half in criminal courts, you know, ranging from the lower level misdemeanors to the highest level offenses in terms of our criminal code. And even though I've only been in this treatment court assignment since August of 2022, what, going on 7 months now, this feels so much better to me. And like I said before, not all cases would be appropriate for a treatment court model. Homicide case, I mean, there are just some cases that this isn't the appropriate model for community protection and other goals. But for those cases where this is appropriate, as a judge, it feels so much better to get a lot of information. I get a lot of information from the treatment court team every time I'm going to do a hearing, right? Whether that's weekly, bi-weekly, or eventually monthly, or every 2 months when someone's close to graduation. And I see it working in a way, and it doesn't work every single time in every case. Addiction is tricky, mental health is tricky, but when you see it working in a way, and you see relationships being developed, and you see an individual changing, in great part because support is around them, right? We've assessed their treatment needs, connecting them with services. I mean, if any one of us, right, if we think about how hard it is to sometimes connect with a service, right? I'm trying to schedule my first colonoscopy because the doctor said, I guess at 45 now you've got to do this. I have been trying for like 3.5 months, 4 months to schedule this darn thing in between, and then I call, and then I leave a message on the scheduling line, and then they call me back, but they're never available when I'm available. And when I think about just how hard that is for me, right, with the resources and privileges I have, to just try to schedule this darn doctor's appointment or this darn procedure, when we're able to really help someone who on their own isn't going to be able to do that in that moment when they're struggling with the mental health crisis or that substance use disorder, to give them the supports, but also just to give them encouragement, right? To tell them there are people that believe in you. A big part of the treatment court research and modeling, a big part of it is developing hope, that the person develops hope, that they start to believe that this is possible in a way that they didn't believe it before. I'll tell you, some people think that's a little too soft or a little too, I don't know, touchy-feely, are you a tree hugger? I don't know. But it's the best feeling I've had in all of my assignments so far in terms of the possibility for meaningful change, and then not only to see, right, like an individual's life getting better, but then to hear a participant say, I also have a case in children's court with my child that was removed, and because of my sobriety, I'm getting visits now, or I'm getting overnights, or the baby has come back to me, right? To see not only that individual change, but how it changes families, how it changes communities, and not just for our generation, right? Not in this moment, but for that next generation. So I will leave it at that. Thank you much.
I would just like to say, thank Carolyn and Sarah. Our chief judges have been very good at carefully selecting who they put in charge of these courts. And Caroline is very good judge, actually, with us. So our chief judges have been very careful.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. So thank you for listening. Right? Give me the signal. So I'm going to hang out, listen to the rest of the presentation, and then I'll be at the back if anyone else has just either questions or comments that you'd like to share with me. So thank you.
Okay, all right, so that is the end of our crime and safety meeting tonight, but I do want to make sure that we give another round of applause for Judge Stark. And then if you have not heard, if you came in a little bit later, we were talking about domestic violence, but we were also talking about restraining orders and us having a domestic violence advocate at District 5, along with the domestic violence liaison officer. So another round of applause, or a round of applause for our DV advocate, Rachel Silverstein. And as I mentioned before, She brings a lot of wealth with her to District 5. So not only just handling domestic violence related issues as it relates to additional information or resources to our victims, but the main resource that she brings, which I'm very thankful for, is the ability to do in-house restraining orders at the district or in-house restraining orders at the location of where the victim would like those to take place, and then also over the phone. So thank you very much, Rachel. That's all we have tonight. Thank you all for coming out here tonight, because we know that you could be anywhere else, but I appreciate the fact that you want to know what's going on in your police district at District 5. So thank you all, and have a safe night, a safe ride home.